I found a tiny camera hidden behind my bedroom mirror, so I took it to a technician. In one clip, my wife whispered to my best friend, "We will kill him on Friday." The car brakes were cut. $3 million in insurance. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel, activate the little bell because every day we have new stories. And tell us in the comments from which city you're watching us. My name is Javier Dominguez Ortega. I'm 52 years old. I'm an industrial engineer, and for 24 years I thought I knew the woman with whom I shared my bed every night. How wrong I was. Everything started on Monday, January 13th, 2025. I had decided to renovate our master bedroom after years of postponing the project. Then Veronica, my 48-year-old wife, had left early that morning saying she had a dentist appointment. "I'll be back around 3, my love," she told me, kissing my cheek with that smile that once melted my heart. I was left home alone. Our son Alvaro, 22 years old, was at university finishing his architecture degree. The empty house gave me the perfect opportunity to start the renovation. I wanted to surprise Veronica with a new bedroom, thinking that maybe that would bring back some of the lost spark in our marriage. I started by dismantling the large mirror that had been fixed to the wall for years. It was heavy, with an old golden frame, a piece we inherited from Veronica's mother when we got married. As I was carefully detaching it from its supports, something small and black fell to the floor with an almost imperceptible metallic sound. I bent down to pick it up. It was a tiny object the size of a shirt button. Examining it more closely in the light from the window, I felt the blood freeze in my veins. It had a tiny lens and what looked like a memory card slot. It was a spy camera. My hand started to shake. How long had that thing been there? Who had placed it? Why would someone be watching me in the privacy of my own room? My first instinct was to call Veronica. I took the phone out of my pocket, but something stopped me. A voice in my head told me to wait, to think clearly. If someone had installed that camera on purpose, confronting them directly could alert the person responsible before I discovered the truth. I put the camera in my pants pocket then and continued with the renovation as if nothing had happened. But my mind couldn't stop thinking about it. I went over the last few months trying to remember anything unusual. Veronica had been more distant lately. That was true, less affectionate, less interested in my things. She spent a lot of time on her phone, smiling at the screen in ways she never did for me. Then I thought about Ruben Salazar Moreno, my best friend for 15 years and partner in my engineering company. Ruben came to the house frequently. He knew every corner of my home, but I dismissed the idea immediately. Ruben was like a brother. I trusted him as much as I trusted myself. When Veronica returned that afternoon, I acted normally. "How was the dentist?" Then I asked her as she left her purse on the sofa. "Fine, just a routine cleaning," she answered without looking me in the eye. She went straight to the room and stopped at the door, seeing the dismantled mirror. "What are you doing?" "I started the renovation we had planned," I said, trying to sound casual. "It was about time, don't you think?" She nodded distractedly. "Yes, of course. I'm going to take a shower." I couldn't sleep that night. Then the camera was hidden in my desk drawer in the study. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined someone watching me, then studying my movements, my most private moments. The idea made my stomach turn. The weekend passed with torturous slowness. I kept the camera hidden, not telling anyone about my discovery. I needed to think about what to do. The following Monday, January 20th, I told Veronica I had to take care of some business at the bank then and left home earlier than usual. I drove to the other side of the city, where a work colleague had once recommended a technician specialized in computer security to me. His name was Ismael Guerrero Vidal. He was 45 years old and operated from a small, discreet shop on a quiet street. "I need you to check this," I told him, placing the camera on his desk. "I found it in my house, and I want to know what it recorded." Ismael took the camera with professional care, examining it with a special magnifying glass. "It's a high-end spy camera," he said after a few minutes. "It has the capacity for 30 days of continuous recording with a motion detector." "Where did you find it exactly?" "Behind a mirror in my room," I replied, feeling a lump in my throat. Then Ismael looked at me with a serious expression. "I'll need a few hours to extract the files from the memory card. Can you come back this afternoon around 6?" I agreed and spent the rest of the day in a state of anxiety I had never experienced. I couldn't concentrate on work. Every possible scenario crossed my mind. Maybe it was my paranoia. Maybe the camera had been there since before we moved in, and it meant nothing, but deep down I knew I was lying to myself. I returned to Ismail's shop at exactly 6 in the evening on Monday, January 20th. The sky was already dark, and the streets were beginning to empty. I knocked on the door, and he let me in immediately, locking it behind me. "Sit down," he told me, pointing to a chair in front of his computer. His tone was somber, professional, but with a hint of discomfort that put my nerves on edge. "What did you find?" I asked, although part of me didn't want to know the answer. Then Ismail took a deep breath before speaking. "I managed to recover 28 days of recordings. The camera has very good image and audio quality. Mr. Dominguez, what I'm about to show you is disturbing. Are you sure you want to see it?" I nodded, unable to articulate a word. Then my throat was completely dry. Ismail moved the mouse and opened a folder with multiple video files organized by date. Then I reviewed all the material. "There are many hours of you and your wife in the room, normal conversations, daily routines, but there's something specific you need to see. It's from December 20th of last year." December 20th. Exactly 1 month ago. I remembered that day vaguely. It had been a Saturday. I had left early to play soccer with friends from work, something I did occasionally. I came back around 3 in the afternoon. Ismail pressed play. The image showed my empty room. Then the angle was perfect. It captured the whole bed and part of the closet. Then the clock on the screen read 10:47 in the morning. Then the door opened. Veronica entered first. She wasn't alone. My heart stopped for a second when I saw who was with her. Ruben Salazar, my best friend for 15 years, my partner, the man I had trusted with my business and my friendship, was entering my master bedroom with his arm around my wife's waist. "Are you sure he won't be back until late?" Ruben asked as he closed the door. "Relax. He always plays soccer until 2:30, Veronica replied with a smile she had never given me. "We have plenty of time." I saw them kiss with a passion that turned my stomach. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen, even though every second was like a stab wound. They undressed each other, unhurriedly, laughing, whispering things I couldn't hear well. Fast forward the video. I told Ismail with a broken voice. "I don't need to see that." He fast forwarded. The image showed them both already dressed, sitting on the edge of my bed. The bed where I slept every night. The clock read 12:22 in the afternoon. Ruben lit a cigarette, something I knew he did occasionally, although he denied it. Then Veronica leaned on his shoulder. "I can't take this anymore," Ruben said, blowing out smoke. "You've been promising for 2 years that you'll leave him, and we're still in the same place. I'm getting tired, Veronica. I know love, but it's complicated. If I ask for a divorce now, the company stays in Javier's hands, and we're left with nothing. 24 years of marriage, and I barely have anything to my name." I felt sick listening to how she talked about me, as if I were a financial obstacle, not the man with whom she had built a life. Ruben sat up, looking at her intently. "Then we have to do something more radical. We've discussed it before." Veronica was silent for a few seconds. Then she spoke with a coldness I never imagined existed in her. "Are you being serious? You'd really do it?" "I have very serious debts, Veronica. 680,000 euros that I owe to people who don't accept excuses. If I don't pay by March, I'm dead. And you need money to start over with me." "The insurance," then Veronica murmured. 8 months ago, I made him sign the life insurance renewal. Then I told him it was the same as always, just updating information, but I actually increased the coverage to 3 million euros. My blood ran cold. I remembered that day perfectly. Veronica had brought me some papers while I was reviewing blueprints in my study. "Just sign here and here, my love. It's the annual insurance renewal. I've already checked everything." I trusted her. I signed without reading. Ruben whistled softly. Then 3 million. Divided by 2, 1.5 million for each of us. Enough to pay my debts then, and for us to go away together anywhere. "But it has to look like an accident," Veronica said, getting up and walking around the room. "Nothing suspicious, something believable." I watched as my wife and my best friend planned my death with the same casualness one plans a vacation. Then Ruben put out his cigarette in the ashtray Veronica handed him. On Friday, January 24th, he has that meeting in Sierra Nevada, Ruben said thoughtfully. He always drives alone to those long meetings. The mountain road has very steep descents. Veronica stopped in front of him. What are you thinking? The brakes. I know someone who can tamper with them without leaving an obvious trace. We'll cut the main cable almost completely. We'll just leave a thread. It'll hold on flat ground, but on the first steep descent with several curves. Ruben made a gesture with his hands, simulating a vehicle out of control. It would look like an accident due to mechanical failure, Veronica completed. Her voice didn't tremble. There was no doubt, no regret. Exactly. We kill him on Friday the 24th. You call the insurance company the following Monday, saying your husband died in a traffic accident. Police investigation concludes mechanical failure. You collect the insurance in 2 or 3 months. We wait a reasonable amount of time, 6 months maybe, and we go to Buenos Aires together. I already have contacts there. Veronica sat down next to him again. 3 million euros. A new life without Javier, without that idiot who hasn't even realized we've been cheating on him for 2 years. Ruben laughed. He's so trusting it's pathetic. Those words pierce me like bullets. 2 years. They have been laughing at me behind my back for 2 years. And what if something goes wrong? Veronica asked. Nothing will go wrong. We'll do it 3 days before, on Tuesday the 21st at night, when he's working late. I'll tamper with the brakes in his garage. Then, he doesn't even check those things. On Wednesday and Thursday, he only drives in the city. Flat terrain. The brakes will hold. On Friday, he goes to the mountains, and then Ruben snapped his fingers. Fatal accident. They kissed, sealing the pact for my murder. The recording continued, showing them leaving the room at 12:53. Ismail stopped the video. The silence in the office then was deafening. There's more, Ismail said in a low voice. Other recordings where they're seen together, but that's the only one where they discuss the specific plan. I couldn't answer. Tears were running down my face uncontrollably. 24 years of marriage, then 15 years of friendship. It had all been a lie. Mr. Dominguez, Ismail said, standing up, you need to go to the police immediately with this evidence. I took a deep breath, tried to regain my composure. What's today's date? Monday, January 20th. I did the mental math. Friday the 24th is in 4 days. I have 4 days to stop them from killing me. That night of Tuesday, January 14th, I didn't return home until after 11. I told Veronica by message that a problem had come up on a construction site and I needed to supervise urgent repairs. A lie. I was driving aimlessly around the city, trying to process what I had just discovered. When I finally entered the house, everything was dark except for the hallway light. Then Veronica was already asleep, or pretending to be. I stood by the bed, watching her for long minutes. Her face looked calm, almost angelic, under the dim light coming through the window. How could she sleep so peacefully after planning a murder? I changed in silence and lay down as far away from her as possible, pressed against the edge of the mattress. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the recording. Her words resonated in my head like funeral bells. We kill him on Friday, the 24th. On Wednesday, January 15th, I woke up before dawn. Veronica was still fast asleep. I went down to the kitchen and made strong coffee. I needed to think clearly. Then I took out my planner and confirmed the date. Friday, January 24th, I had a meeting in Granada with an important client. The journey involved driving on the Sierra Nevada highway, exactly as Ruben had mentioned in the recording. I opened my laptop and began to review the past with new eyes. The last 2 years of my life then unfolded before me like a movie where I finally understood the hidden subtext. June, then of 2023. Veronica started going to the gym 3 times a week. I need to take better care of myself, she'd say. She bought new clothes. She'd dress up more to go out. I thought it was wonderful that she was feeling good about herself after years of routine. How naive I was. She was dressing up for Ruben. September of 2023. Ruben divorced his wife Patricia after 17 years of marriage. He confided in me that things hadn't been working for a while. I comforted him. We went out to bars. We talked for hours about failed relationships. Then, "You're my only real friend, Javier," he told me one night, drunk. Meanwhile, he was already sleeping with my wife. November of 2023. Veronica started taking short trips on weekends. "I'm going to see my cousin in Valencia. I'm meeting up with a friend from school in Barcelona." She always had perfect excuses. Then I'd stay home working or with Alvaro. Now I understood that those trips were getaways with Ruben. March of 2024. I noticed Veronica was more distant physically. She rejected my attempts at intimacy with headaches, tiredness, any pretext. Then, "I'm going through hormonal changes," she'd explain. I accepted it without question. Obviously, she didn't need me anymore because she had Ruben. June of 2024, the day I signed the insurance documents. I remember the scene with painful clarity. I was in my study reviewing plans for a commercial building project. Veronica came in with a folder full of papers. "Honey, the life insurance renewal came. It's the same as always, just the annual update. Sign here and here." I did as she said without reading. Then I trusted her completely. Why would I doubt my wife after 22 years together? I signed where she told me to. Then 3 million euros. My life was worth 3 million euros to her. I went up to the bedroom and took the insurance policy out of the file cabinet. There it was, black on white. Beneficiary, Veronica Castillo Ramos. Amount, 3 million euros. Date of signature, June 18th, 2024. My own signature in blue ink, sealing my death sentence. I felt sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up the coffee I had just drunk. I gripped the sink with trembling hands as tears fell on the white porcelain. 24 years. More than 2 decades of my life given to someone who was now conspiring to murder me. I remembered our wedding. Veronica walking down the aisle in a radiant white dress. We promised to love each other in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, until death do us part. Death. How ironic that she herself was planning to bring that separation forward. I thought about Ruben. How many times had he been in my house? The summer barbecues where we laughed together, then the work meetings where we made important decisions for our company, the soccer games we watched screaming like teenagers. It was all fake. While I considered him a brother, he was planning to steal my wife and then my life. Then the phone vibrated on the table. A message from Ruben. "Javi, let's have lunch today. I need to talk to you about the Malaga project." Then the hypocrisy turned my stomach. I replied with calculated coldness. "Perfect. 2 o'clock at the usual restaurant. If you wanted to pretend to be normal, I could do it too. But my every move from now on would be part of a bigger plan." I went back to the kitchen just as Veronica was coming down the stairs in her robe. "Good morning," she said in a sleepy voice. "You got up very early." I couldn't sleep, a lot of work on my mind. Then I lied while pouring more coffee. She came over and kissed my cheek, the same mechanical gesture of every morning for years, but now her touch burned my skin like acid. I had to use all my willpower not to pull away abruptly. "Are you still on for the meeting in Granada on Friday?" she asked, taking a cup. My heart beat faster. There it was. Additional confirmation that the plan was still in motion. "Yes, I'm leaving early. I'll probably be back Saturday morning." "Be very careful on the road," she said, looking me in the eyes with a feigned concern that seemed obscene to me. "Those mountains are dangerous." "Of course, love. I'm always careful," I replied, forcing a smile. She went up to take a shower. I waited to hear the water running, and then I checked her phone, which she had left charging on the counter. It had a passcode. I tried our anniversary date. Incorrect. I tried Alvaro's birthday. Incorrect. I tried Ruben's birthday. 0308, then 1974. The phone unlocked. Her lover's birthday was her phone's passcode. The humiliation reached levels I didn't think possible. I quickly checked WhatsApp. She had a chat with Ruben, but all the messages were deleted. Encrypted messaging apps that I didn't recognize. It was obvious they communicated through channels I couldn't easily track. I locked the phone again and left it exactly where it was. I couldn't alert them yet. I needed more than emotions. I needed solid evidence, legal protection, then a master plan. I had 9 days until Friday the 24th. 9 days to turn from victim into strategist. Then on Thursday, January 16th at 9 in the morning, I was sitting in the office of Gonzalo Fuentes, a criminal lawyer with 32 years of experience who had been recommended to me by a colleague from the Engineering Guild. His office was in the historic center of the city, on the 3rd floor of an old building overlooking the main square. Gonzalo was 58 years old, had completely white hair and a penetrating gaze that conveyed absolute seriousness. He was wearing an impeccable dark suit, and when I shook his hand, I noticed his firm and professional grip. Mr. Dominguez, you mentioned on the phone that it was urgent and delicate. How can I help you? I took out the pen drive Ismail had given me with the complete recordings. I need you to see this before I explain anything. Gonzalo inserted the device into his computer. I told him to play the file from December 20th. Then for the next 15 minutes, he watched the screen in absolute silence. His expression went from professional curiosity to genuine concern. When he finished watching the recording where Veronica and Ruben planned my murder, he leaned back in his chair, breathing deeply. Mr. Dominguez, what I've just witnessed constitutes conspiracy to commit murder with premeditation, treachery, and financial motive. We're talking about crimes that can carry sentences of 20 years or more in prison. I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. Hearing it then expressed in legal terms made it even more real. Where exactly did you find this camera? He asked, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. Behind the mirror in my master bedroom. I discovered it by accident last Monday during a renovation. Do you have any idea who installed it? Not for sure. But Ruben Salazar, the man in the video, has been coming to my house frequently for years. He knows every corner, then he has emergency keys. Gonzalo wrote more notes. And the date of the supposed attack is Friday, January 24th, in 8 days. Exactly. I have a work meeting in Granada. I have to drive through a mountain road. As you heard in the recording, they plan to sabotage the brakes of my car on Tuesday night, the 21st. The lawyer stood up and began to walk around the office. We have several possible courses of action. The first and most obvious would be to present this evidence to the prosecutor's office immediately. With these recordings, they could arrest your wife and Ruben Salazar preventively. But then I asked, noticing his hesitant tone. But the defense could argue that the recording was obtained without consent, violating privacy. Then, even though it was in your own home. The fact that you installed the camera without your wife's knowledge could complicate the admissibility of the evidence. I felt my hope crumble. I didn't install that camera, I found it. I know, but proving that is another matter. We need to build an absolutely solid case. We can't give them any opportunity to escape on legal technicalities. Gonzalo returned to his desk and opened his planner. I know an excellent private investigator, Ismael Guerrero Vidal. He's discreet, professional, and has contacts in many fields. We need him to thoroughly investigate the activities of your wife and Ruben Salazar. In fact, Ismael was the one who extracted the recordings from the camera, I explained. I already trust him. Perfect. That saves us valuable time. I'm going to call him right now to coordinate our strategy. While Gonzalo was on the phone with Ismael, I mentally reviewed everything that had happened in the last 5 days. Then on Monday, I found the camera. On Tuesday, I saw the recordings. On Wednesday, I analyzed the entire past. Today, Thursday, I was building my defense. There were 7 days left. Gonzalo hung up and turned to me with a serious expression. Ismael will be here in an hour. In the meantime, I need you to tell me absolutely everything about your relationship with Veronica and with Ruben. Don't omit any detail, no matter how irrelevant it seems. I spent the next 40 minutes recounting my married life. I told him about our 24 years together, how we met in college, the birth of Alvaro, the building of my engineering company, the partnership with Ruben that began 15 years ago. Does your son know any of this? Gonzalo asked. No, Alvaro is studying architecture. He's 22. He lives with us, but he spends most of his time at the university or with friends. I don't want to involve him until I have clarity on how to proceed. Wise. Keep this confidential for now. The fewer people who know, the better. At 10:30, Ismael arrived. We greeted each other gravely. The three of us sat around the conference table in the office. Mr. Dominguez, Ismael began, opening his laptop. After our meeting on Tuesday, I've continued to investigate. I legally accessed public records and discovered relevant information about Ruben Salazar. He projected documents on the screen. Then, Ruben has registered debts of 680,000 euros with unconventional financial institutions. They're pending civil lawsuits. I also found that he rented an apartment 23 months ago in the name of a shell company. Then it's in the Salamanca neighborhood, a discreet residential area. 23 months. I repeated, feeling the blow. That meant they had been having their secret love nest for almost 2 years. Correct. I've requested a court order for surveillance of the apartment and monitoring of communications, but that will take a few days. Then in the meantime, I could do discreet physical surveillance. Gonzalo intervened. We need to document everything, then every meeting, every movement, every financial transaction. When we present the case to the prosecutor's office, it must be impeccable. Then, and what do I do in the meantime? I asked, do I keep acting as if nothing's wrong? Exactly that. Then Gonzalo replied firmly. Maintain your normal routine. Don't change your behavior. Don't confront your wife or Ruben. Then, any alteration could alert them and cause them to change their plans or flee. But on Tuesday the 21st they planned to sabotage my car. I objected. That's in 5 days. Then we'll have taken measures before then, the lawyer assured me. Ismael, I need you to have photographic evidence of the apartment, entry and exit logs, any communication you can legally intercept by Sunday. The meeting continued for another 2 hours. I signed confidentiality agreements, investigation authorizations, powers of attorney. Gonzalo explained step by step how we would proceed. I left the office around 1 in the afternoon with a strange feeling. For the first time in days, I felt I wasn't facing this nightmare alone. Then I had professionals helping me. I had a plan. But that night, I had to go home and have dinner with the woman who wanted to kill me. Then on Friday, January 17th, I got home at 7 in the evening. I had spent the whole day working at the office, or at least pretending to work. In reality, my mind was elsewhere, then reviewing every detail of the strategy that Gonzalo and Ismael were executing. When I opened the door, I was greeted by an aroma I hadn't smelled in months, cocido madrileno, the favorite stew Veronica used to prepare during the early years of our marriage. Then the smell transported me to happier times when I still believed our love was real. You're here, she said, coming out of the kitchen with an apron on. She was smiling in a way that seemed genuine. I made your favorite food. We haven't cooked anything special in a long time. I stood in the doorway, processing the scene. Why this sudden change? Did she suspect something? Or was it part of her act to keep me confident before Friday the 24th? It smells delicious, I managed to say, leaving my briefcase by the coat rack. The dining room table was set with unusual elegance, a white tablecloth, lit candles, crystal glasses. Veronica had opened a bottle of red wine, a Rioja Reserva we kept for special occasions. What are we celebrating? I asked, trying to sound casual as I sat down. Nothing in particular. Then she replied, serving me a generous plate of stew. I just wanted to do something nice. I've been distant lately, and I thought you deserve a nice dinner. The irony was so brutal, I had to bite my tongue. This woman was planning to murder me in a week, and now she was pretending to be the attentive and loving wife. The level of hypocrisy surpassed anything I could have imagined. We ate in silence for the first few minutes. The stew was perfectly prepared, as she always made it. The chickpeas were just right, the meat tender, the broth with that homemade flavor I liked so much. Every bite was a mix of nostalgia and nausea. Isn't Alvaro having dinner with us? I asked, noticing our son's absence. Then, he's staying at a friend's house, studying for final exams. He'll be back tomorrow afternoon. Perfect. We were then alone, she and I, the murderer and her victim, sharing a romantic dinner. Then Veronica took a sip of wine and looked me straight in the eye. Javier, are you still going to Granada next Friday? There it was. The question I had been waiting for all dinner. Yes, the meeting is confirmed, I replied, cutting a piece of meat. It's with the investors for the new project. I can't cancel. I understand, she said, playing with her napkin. It's just that mountain road makes me nervous, especially at this time of year. There can be ice on the curves. How thoughtful. Worrying about my safety while planning my death. The performance was worthy of an award. I've driven that route many times, I said, keeping a calm tone. I know every curve, don't worry. She reached her hand across the table and took mine. Her skin was warm, soft, that hand I had held for 24 years. That hand that signed documents increasing my life insurance to 3 million euros without my knowledge. Be very careful on the road, my love, she whispered in a worried voice that sounded completely sincere. I don't know what I'd do if something happened to you. I had to use all my willpower not to pull my hand away abruptly, not to scream everything I knew at her, not to confront her with the recordings I had seen. But Gonzalo had been clear, stay calm. Don't alert her. Let them continue with their plan until we had irrefutable evidence. I'm always careful, then I replied, forcing a smile. Besides, it's just one day. I'll leave early on Friday and come back Saturday morning. Do you want me to come with you? She offered. It could be a nice little trip together. The proposal chilled my blood. Then if she came, the plan to sabotage the car wouldn't work. She was testing me, wanting to confirm I'd be alone. No need, then I said naturally. They're boring, technical meetings. Then you'd be bored to death. Better to rest. Take the opportunity to do things you enjoy. She nodded, satisfied. You're then, right? Then I'll take the opportunity to catch up with some friends. Friends, or with Ruben in the secret apartment, celebrating in advance that they would soon be rich. We finished dinner talking about trivial things. Then Alvaro and his studies, pending renovations in the house, then plans for the summer that would never come because I'd be dead. At least that's what she thought. Then after clearing the table, Veronica suggested we watch a movie together on the couch. She chose a romantic comedy we had seen years ago on our anniversary. She snuggled up against my shoulder, as she used to do. Her perfume, that floral scent I knew so well, enveloped me. I pretended to watch the screen, but my mind was elsewhere. Then I remembered our honeymoon in Santorini. Veronica laughing with the wind in her hair as we sailed at sunset. I remembered Alvaro's birth, how she cried with happiness holding our son for the first time. I remembered 1,000 moments I thought were real. At what point did it all become a lie? What did she stop loving me? Or did she never really love me? When the movie ended, it was almost 11 at night. Veronica yawned and stretched. I'm exhausted. Let's go up to sleep. I nodded and followed her upstairs. In the bedroom, she changed in the bathroom while I mechanically put on my pajamas. When she came out, she was wearing a nightgown she hadn't worn in years. She came over and kissed me with an intensity that took me by surprise. I love you, she whispered against my lips. Those 2 words were the last straw. I couldn't take it anymore. I mumbled an excuse about going to the bathroom and locked the door behind me. I leaned against the sink, breathing heavily. My reflection in the mirror showed a broken man. Tears began to fall uncontrollably. I turned on the tap so the sound of the water would drown out my sobs. The woman who had just said she loved me had planned my murder. She had conspired with my best friend to kill me for money, and I had to share a bed with her pretending everything was fine. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, feeling violent nausea. I vomited everything I had eaten for dinner into the toilet. The stew she had prepared with such care came out mixed with bitter bile. I kept vomiting until only dry heaves were left. I rinsed my mouth and face with cold water. I had to wait several minutes to regain enough composure to leave. Veronica was already in bed when I returned. Are you okay? She asked sleepily. I heard you throwing up. I think the meat didn't agree with me. Then I lied, getting under the covers as far away from her as possible. Poor thing, she murmured. Get some rest. I stayed awake for hours listening to her steady breathing. She slept peacefully while I suffered mental and emotional agony. There were 7 days left until Friday, the 24th, 7 days to survive this charade. On Saturday, January 18th at 10 in the morning, my phone vibrated with an encrypted message from Ismail. Important information. Plaza Real Cafe in 30 minutes. I told Veronica I had to check on an urgent matter at a construction site. Then she barely looked up from her phone, where she was smiling and typing messages, probably with Ruben. I arrived at the cafe 15 minutes later. Ismail was already at a table in the back, away from other customers. In front of him was a thick manila folder. "Good morning, Mr. Dominguez," he greeted, pushing the folder towards me. "We've been working nonstop since Thursday. What we found exceeds all expectations." I opened the folder. The first pages showed photographs of a modern building in a residential neighborhood. "This is the apartment Ruben Salazar rented 23 months ago. Calle Hermosla, number 42, 5th and floor, left door." I turned the pages. More photographs showed the building entrance, the doorway, even views from the street toward the 5th floor windows. "How did you get access?" I asked. "Contacts in the building administration. The contract is in the name of a shell company, Inversions Mediterraneo SL. But we traced the payments. They come from a personal bank account of Ruben Salazar. €850 a month, €850 every month for almost 2 years, more than 19,000 euros spent maintaining that secret nest where he slept with my wife." Ismail continued. "I installed a discreet surveillance camera in the building's entrance on Thursday night. Look at these captures." Then he showed me photographs with date and timestamps. Friday the 17th, 2:37 p.m. Veronica entering the building. Friday the 17th, 6:12 p.m. Veronica leaving the building. "She was there for almost 4 hours yesterday, while you were working," Ismail explained. "Ruben arrived at 2:42 p.m., left at 6:15 p.m. I felt a stab in my chest. Yesterday, Friday, while I was suffering in silence, planning how to survive, then she was spending the afternoon with her lover." "There's more," Ismail said, taking out another envelope. "I obtained a limited court order for communication interception. We can't access encrypted messages, but we can access normal phone calls and SMS messages. Listen to this." He pressed play on a small digital recorder. I heard Ruben's voice, unmistakable after 15 years of friendship. "Everything is still on track. On Tuesday night, when he's working late, I'll do the car thing. I have the contact who'll get me the specific tools. Then brake line cut 80%. It'll hold on flat ground. It'll fail on the first steep descent." Then Veronica's voice. "Are you absolutely sure it will work? We can't risk it failing." "Relax, then, love. I've researched every detail. On Friday, the 24th, he takes the A92 highway to Granada. Then the N323 road towards Sierra Nevada. There's a descent of almost 500 meters with sharp curves between kilometers 32 and 38. With no brakes. Impossible to control it. And the police won't suspect. Accident due to mechanical failure. It happens all the time. The vehicle is 6 years old. High mileage. Totally believable. The investigation will conclude accidental death in 2 weeks maximum. You call the insurance company, submit the documents, wait 30 days, and you collect the $3 million. Then Ismail stopped the recording. This conversation was on Thursday the 16th at night, hours after you hired Gonzalo and me. My hands were trembling holding the folder. Hearing how coldly they planned every detail of my murder was devastating. I also investigated Ruben's finances. As attorney Fuentes requested, Ismail continued, passing more documents. He has registered debts of exactly 680,000 euros. 3 loans with shady financial institutions, interest at 30% annually. If he doesn't pay by March 15th, the consequences will be severe. Then severe consequences, I repeated. One of the creditors has a violent reputation. Ruben wouldn't just lose everything. He could end up hospitalized or worse. There was the real motivation. It wasn't just greed, then it was desperation. Ruben needed that insurance money to save his own life. And the tickets to Buenos Aires? I asked, remembering what they mentioned in the original recording. Ismail took out printouts of emails. Purchased on January 3rd. 2 plane tickets Madrid to Buenos Aires. Departure date, Saturday, January 26th. Names, then Ruben Salazar Moreno and Veronica Castillo Ramos. 2 days after my planned death. They had calculated every detail. There's something else, Ismail said, lowering his voice, even though we were alone. I got a copy of bank transfers between Ruben and Veronica. Look at the dates. I reviewed the documents. Small transfers, 200 euros here, 300 there. They started in March of 2023, then almost 2 years ago. Ruben was giving her money regularly? Apparently so. Probably for apartment expenses, gifts, secret trips. Then they add up to approximately 7,000 euros in total over these 23 months. I leaned back in my chair, processing all the information. It wasn't just infidelity, it was a complete financial conspiracy. They had built a parallel life for 2 years while I worked like an idiot providing for a home that was a facade. Mr. Dominguez, Ismail said, closing the folder. With this evidence plus the recordings from the camera you found, we have a solid case. Gonzalo can present it to the prosecutor's office on Monday. Then Monday? I asked, alarmed. But Ruben plans to sabotage my car on Tuesday night. That's exactly why we must act fast. If we file a complaint on Monday, the prosecutor's office can order a preventive arrest before they execute the then plan. We spent another 2 hours reviewing every document, every photograph, every recording. Ismail had done an exceptional job. We had dates, places, motivations, physical evidence, recorded testimonies. When I left the cafe, it was almost noon. Instead of going back home, I went straight to the bank. I had urgent financial decisions to make. On Monday, January 20th, I woke up at 6 in the morning with a clear plan in mind. Then Veronica was still sleeping when I dressed silently and left the house. I had scheduled an urgent bank meeting with the manager of my branch. At 8 o'clock sharp, I was sitting across from Emilio Vargas, the director of Banco Santander, who had been managing my personal and business account for 12 years. I told him by email that I needed to restructure several financial matters urgently. Javier, I got your message, Emilio said, shaking my hand with a worried look. Is everything all right? I need to make some important changes today. I replied, placing a written list on his desk. First, I want to transfer 400,000 euros from our joint account to a business account exclusively in my name. Emilio raised his eyebrows. That's a considerable amount. Is your wife aware? I'm reorganizing investments. I'll explain it to her personally. A calculated but necessary lie. Emilio nodded and started typing on his computer. Under what concept should I register the transfer? Investment in new machinery for company expansion. Then I have documentation to back it up. I had prepared fake quotes the night before just in case. Then perfect. The transfer will be processed this afternoon. Anything else? I took a deep breath before continuing. Second point, I need to remove Veronica Castillo Ramos as a beneficiary and co-owner of all my accounts, investments, and policies associated with this bank. The silence that followed was thick. Emilio stopped typing and looked at me directly. Javier, that's a very significant change. Then after so many years of marriage, are you sure? Completely sure. I want only my name on everything. I understand. I'll need you to sign several documents. Some products require notification to the current co-owner. Then are you prepared for that? Do what's necessary. Just make sure it's registered today. We spent the next hour signing forms. Emilio processed each change with professionalism, though his expression showed restrained curiosity. I didn't give him any further explanation. One more thing, I said when we were done with the papers, then the life insurance policy I have through the bank. Can you verify the details? Emilio looked it up in the system. Here it is. Life insurance for. Wait, this can't be right. What's wrong? It shows coverage of 3 million euros, but I have a record that your original policy was for 500,000 euros. There was a modification last June, increasing the amount and the monthly premium. Who authorized that change? Emilio checked more details. Your certified digital signature appears. Date, June 18th, 2024. Beneficiary, Veronica Castillo Ramos. There was the confirmation. Veronica had made me sign documents telling me it was a routine renewal. In reality, then she was increasing the value of my life to 3 million euros. I want to cancel that policy immediately. I said in a firm voice. Cancel it, Javier. At your age and risk profile, it would be difficult to get similar coverage later. Then I don't care. Cancel it today. Emilio made notes with a resigned expression. As you wish. It will be void starting tomorrow, Tuesday, January 21st. Perfect. When Ruben sabotaged my car, there wouldn't even be any insurance to collect. I left the bank at 10:30. My next stop was the notary office of Felipe Guerrero Santos, a notary who had handled my company's legal affairs for years. Don Javier, what a surprise. Felipe greeted me when I entered his office. I don't have an appointment scheduled with you. I need to modify my will urgently. Can you see me now? Felipe consulted his schedule. I have a free slot until 11:30. Tell me what changes you need. I took out a document I had drafted over the weekend. I want to include a specific clause. Any beneficiary who is proven guilty or an accomplice in a crime against my person is automatically disinherited. All assets would pass directly to my son, Alvaro Dominguez Castillo. Felipe read the text, frowning. This is a very unusual clause. Is there something I should know? I just want to make sure my assets are protected under any circumstances, I replied, avoiding details. We spent the next hour drafting the new will with proper legal language. I signed in front of witnesses Felipe summoned from his administrative staff. Then the document was officially registered at 11:26 in the morning. When I left the notary's office, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I had protected my assets. Veronica and Ruben could kill me, but they wouldn't see €1 of my money. I arrived home around noon. Alvaro was in the kitchen making a sandwich. Hi, Dad, he greeted with a smile. Mom left a while ago. She said she'd be back for lunch. Then she was probably at the apartment with Ruben. Alvaro, I need to ask you something. Then I said, sitting across from him. Sure. What is it? Your mother. Have you noticed anything strange in her behavior lately? My son looked at me, confused. Strange how? I don't know. Different, distracted, absent. Alvaro chewed thoughtfully. Now that you mention it, yes, she's on her phone a lot and goes out a lot more than before. Why do you ask? Is something wrong between you two? I couldn't involve my son yet. Just curious. Forget it, then, but Alvaro didn't let it go. Dad, I heard her talking on the phone in the garden yesterday. Then she was saying something about Friday and the highway. She sounded worried. Does it have to do with your trip to Granada? My heart skipped a beat. Then what else did you hear exactly? Not much, just that. Then she came inside and hung up quickly when she saw me. He paused, looking at me with a serious expression. Are you guys having problems? You can tell me the truth. I touched my son's shoulder. Everything's fine. It's just adult stuff that I'm handling. Don't worry. But Alvaro didn't seem convinced. If you need to talk, I'm here. You're my father. I want to help you. His words moved me deeply. At least my son was still loyal to me. That afternoon, Veronica returned at 3. She was carrying shopping bags and had a radiant expression. I went shopping with Mercedes, she explained, leaving the packages on the sofa. Mercedes was her friend of many years. Another lie, then more. We spent the rest of the day in a superficially normal tension. She cooked, we ate dinner, we watched television, all routine, all fake. When we went up to sleep, I lay down thinking that there were only 4 days left until Friday, the 24th. But tomorrow, Tuesday, was when Ruben planned to sabotage my car. I couldn't let that happen. Tuesday, January 21st, dawned gray and cold. It was the day Ruben planned to sabotage my car's brakes, but I was already several steps ahead. At 7 in the morning, I called Tomas Herrera Silva, a trusted mechanic who had worked on my vehicles for 15 years. His workshop was in an industrial area, a discreet place perfect for what I needed. Then, Javier, good morning. Tomas answered with his characteristic gruff voice. Tomas, I need you to give my car a complete check today, especially the braking system. Is something wrong? I suspect someone might have tampered with it. I can't explain more now, but it's urgent. There was a brief pause. Then, bring it in at 9. I'll check it myself. I hung up just as Veronica entered the kitchen. Who are you talking to so early? She asked, pouring coffee. Work site issues. I lied, taking my cup. Alvaro came down minutes later, getting dressed for university. He looked at me with a strange expression, as if he wanted to say something but was holding back. "What's wrong, son?" I asked. He glanced at Veronica, who had her back to us making toast. He lowered his voice. "Dad, last night, I heard Mom talking on the phone in the garden again. She was asking a lot about your trip on Friday. Why is she asking so much if you already confirmed the meeting?" Veronica turned around suddenly. "What are you two talking about?" "Nothing, love," I replied quickly. "Alvaro was telling me about an exam he has tomorrow." But she didn't seem convinced. Her eyes moved between her son and me with a barely perceptible suspicion. Alvaro said goodbye a few minutes later. "See you tonight. I have classes until late." When we were alone, Veronica sat across from me. "Javier, are you sure everything is okay? Then you seem strange lately." The comment caught me off guard. "Strange? In what way?" "Then I don't know. Distant. You left early on Saturday. You were out all day on Monday. You talk on the phone in a low voice. Are you hiding something from me?" The irony was overwhelming. The murderer asking her victim if he was hiding secrets. "It's just work stress," then I said, getting up from the table. "I have to go to the workshop. The car is making a strange noise, and I wanted to check it before the trip on Friday." I saw tension cross her face. "A strange noise? What then kind?" "In the brakes. It's probably nothing, but I'd rather make sure." Her expression changed to controlled alarm. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No need. I'll be quick and come back." Then I left before she could insist. In the garage, I quickly checked the vehicle before starting it. Everything seemed normal at first glance. Ruben clearly hadn't executed his plan yet. I drove to Tomas's workshop with extreme care. Every red light was a test that the brakes still worked normally. Tomas greeted me with a serious expression. "Put on the lift. We're going to check it piece by piece." I spent the next hour watching as Tomas and his assistant removed the wheels, inspected the cables, and checked the brake fluid, taking pictures of everything. "Javier, everything's fine for now," Tomas concluded, wiping his hands with a greasy rag. "The brakes work perfectly, but if you suspect sabotage, leave it here until after your trip. I'll lend you a courtesy vehicle." "I don't need that. Leave it exactly as it is. But document everything photographically. If someone tampers with it later, we'll have before and after evidence." Tomas narrowed his eyes. "What have you gotten yourself into?" "It's complicated. Just trust me." I returned home around noon. Veronica was in the living room talking on the phone. She hung up quickly when she saw me come in. "What did the mechanic say?" she asked in a casual tone that didn't fool me. "Then everything's fine, false alarm." I saw relief flash across her eyes. She still didn't suspect that I knew. In the afternoon, I was in my study reviewing documents when I heard a conversation on the floor below. Veronica was talking to someone. I peeked cautiously. It was Ruben. I was passing through the neighborhood and thought I'd visit. I heard my supposed best friend say, "Javier's upstairs working. Come in. We'll have coffee." I came down deliberately, making noise on the stairs. "Ruben, what a surprise." We greeted each other with a pat on the back. A perfect performance from both sides. "I just came to confirm for tomorrow," Ruben said. "Are you still free for a beer tonight? It's been a while since we talked peacefully." Tomorrow, Wednesday, a day earlier than they had planned according to the original recording. "Sure. What then time?" 9 at the usual bar. "Perfect." Ruben stayed for coffee with Veronica. I watched them interact with calculated coldness, forced laughs, banal comments, no external sign that they were lovers conspiring to kill me. When Ruben left, Veronica came up to the study. "By the way, I found this in your jacket." She held out her hand, showing Ismael Guerrero's business card. Time stood still. I had completely forgotten that detail. "Who is Ismael Guerrero?" she asked in a dangerously calm voice. I thought fast. A consultant for new projects. I spoke with him about expanding the company. A consultant? His card says private investigator. Damn, I needed a better lie. Then he also does corporate security, consulting, internal fraud, that kind of thing. I want to implement stricter controls. Veronica studied me with a penetrating gaze. Why do we need a private investigator in the company? It's preventive. Ruben and I handle a lot of money. We want to make sure everything is protected. I mentioned Ruben deliberately to give the lie credibility. She nodded slowly, but didn't seem entirely convinced. Okay, it just seems strange. She left the card on my desk and walked out. I took a deep breath. I had almost ruined everything. That night, at 11, I received an encrypted message from Gonzalo. Complete dossier prepared. 52 pages. We present to the prosecutor's office tomorrow, Wednesday, at 9 a.m. Be ready. Tomorrow, Wednesday the 23rd, 2 days before the Friday planned for my death. The trap was ready to be sprung. Then on Wednesday, January 22nd, I woke up at 5:30 in the morning. I hadn't been able to sleep thinking about what would happen today. Veronica was breathing deeply beside me, completely oblivious that her world was about to collapse. Then I dressed in silence and went down to the kitchen. I made strong coffee while checking messages on my phone. One from Gonzalo sent at 5 a.m. Meeting with prosecutor confirmed for 9 a.m. Bring original life insurance documentation. I replied, then understood. I have to do something important first. At 7:15, I left the house, leaving a note in the kitchen. Went to the workshop early. Back at noon. Technically true, though I didn't mention the real reason. I drove directly to Tomas's workshop. He was already waiting for me with a coffee in hand and a worried expression. You're early, he said as I got out of the vehicle. I need you to do an exhaustive check now. Everything we talked about on Tuesday, but this time looks specifically for intentional tampering. Tomas nodded, understanding the gravity. Put it up, let's get to work. While the car was raised on a hydraulic lift, I called Gonzalo for an update. Where are you? The lawyer asked. At the mechanic's workshop. I want to confirm if they sabotaged the vehicle before we meet with the prosecutor. Then smart. If we find physical evidence of the sabotage, it strengthens the case enormously. Then I hung up just as Tomas shouted from under the car. Javier, come here right now. My stomach clenched. I crouched under the vehicle with him. Then Tomas was shining a powerful flashlight on the braking system. Look at this, he said, pointing to a thin steel cable. The main brake line is filed down almost completely. Only 3 or 4 threads are left holding it. It's done with surgical precision. I felt chills run down my spine. It wasn't paranoia, then it was real. Someone had tampered with my car exactly as they planned. When could this have happened? Then Tomas asked in a tense voice. Last night, while I was sleeping, my garage doesn't have a security camera. Then someone got in and did it. Tomas took out his phone and started taking pictures from multiple angles. This isn't an accident or natural wear and tear. It's professional sabotage. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. Would the brakes work in the city? Yes, flat terrain doesn't require much pressure, but on a mountain road with steep descents. Tomas gestured with his head. First sharp downhill curve, and the remaining cable would snap completely. 0 brakes. Impossible to stop the vehicle. Survival. Tomas looked at me directly. In Sierra Nevada, with those curves and ravines? Minimal. Then you'd be dead, Javier. The words fell like cement blocks. This was no longer a theory or recordings. It was a real, materialized murder attempt. Document absolutely everything. I ordered in a firm voice that hid an internal tremor. Photographs, exact measurements, angles, probable tools used. I need a full technical report before noon. Are you going to the police? To the prosecutor's office, directly to the prosecutor. I spent the next 2 hours watching as Tomas and 2 other mechanics documented every millimeter of the sabotage. They took 63 photographs from different perspectives. They measured the exact depth of the cut, 82% of the total thickness of the cable. Then, look here, Tomas pointed out, showing microscopic marks. They use an industrial precision file, probably from a professional workshop. It's not a tool just anyone would have. Ruben occasionally worked with mechanical subcontractors for engineering projects. He would have access to those kinds of tools. Then at 10:15, Tomas handed me a manila envelope with a complete 18-page technical report, color-printed photographs, explanatory diagrams, and professional conclusions signed and sealed. Javier, Tomas said, putting a hand on my shoulder, I don't know what's going on in your life, but be very careful. Whoever did this wasn't playing around. They really wanted to kill you. I then know, and they're going to pay for it. I drove directly to Gonzalo's office. The lawyer was waiting for me with Ismail. Both turned pale when I showed them the technical report. "My God," Gonzalo murmured, reading the conclusions. "This is irrefutable physical evidence of attempted murder." Ismail then examined the photographs with a grim expression. "The cut was made between yesterday, Tuesday night, and this morning. It matches the timeline we heard in the recordings exactly." Gonzalo began to organize documents on his desk. "We have everything we need. The original camera recording where they planned the murder. Transcripts of phone calls confirming the details. Photographs of the secret apartment. Financial records showing the economic motive, and now physical evidence of the sabotage." He took out a thick label folder. "Criminal complaint. Javier Dominguez Ortega versus Veronica Castillo Ramos and Ruben Salazar Moreno. 52 pages, then Gonzalo said. Every fact documented, every date verified, every piece of evidence cataloged. It's an airtight case. What will happen when we present this?" I asked. "The prosecutor will review the material. If he agrees with our assessment, he will issue an immediate preventive arrest warrant for both of them. Attempted murder with premeditation is a serious crime. There will be no possibility of bail." I looked at the clock. Then 11:43. "When are we going?" "Right now. The prosecutor is expecting us at 12 sharp." The three of us went to the provincial prosecutor's office building in the city center. It was a modern structure of glass and steel, where the fates of hundreds of people were decided daily. We went up to the 4th floor. A receptionist showed us into an austere meeting room with a long table and black leather chairs. At 12:07, Chief Prosecutor Antonio Mendez Flores entered, a 61-year-old man with a reputation for being relentless against violent crime. He was wearing a dark gray suit and had reading glasses hanging from his neck. Then, "Attorney Fuentes, your message said maximum urgency," he said, shaking hands professionally. "Prosecutor Mendez, then I present Javier Dominguez Ortega. He is the victim of a murder conspiracy that is scheduled to be carried out the day after tomorrow, Friday." Antonio Mendez sat down slowly. "You have my full attention." For the next 3 hours, we presented everything to Prosecutor Antonio Mendez. Gonzalo laid out the case chronologically while Ismail showed photographic evidence on a projected screen. We started with the recording from December 20th. Mendez listened in absolute silence as Veronica and Ruben planned my murder. His expression hardened when they got to the part, "We kill him on Friday the 24th. Car brakes cut." Then came the documentation of the secret apartment, photographs of Veronica entering and leaving rental contracts, then monthly payments of €850 for 23 months. Ismail presented transcripts of legally authorized telephone intercepts, then conversations where they discussed details of the sabotage, tickets to Buenos Aires, the division of the insurance money. Gonzalo showed the financial evidence, then Ruben's debts of €680,000, the fraudulent increase of my insurance policy to €3 million, and the bank transfers between the conspirators. Finally came Tomas's technical report. Mendez studied each photograph of the file break line. He read the professional conclusions twice. Cable cut 82%. Catastrophic failure guaranteed on the first steep descent, he read aloud. Driver's death highly probable given the mountainous terrain of Sierra Nevada. He closed the folder and leaned back in his chair. "Mr. Dominguez, in 35 years as a prosecutor, I've seen many cases, but this level of premeditation, calculated coldness, and documented evidence is extraordinary. Will you proceed with arrests?" Gonzalo asked immediately. "This constitutes conspiracy to commit aggravated homicide, attempted murder, insurance fraud, and vehicle sabotage. I'm going to issue preventive arrest warrants for Veronica Castillo Ramos and Ruben Salazar Moreno without the right to bail, given the proven flight risk from the international tickets." Mendez picked up his phone. "Captain Serrano, I need 2 immediate arrest teams, suspects of attempted homicide. I'm sending the locations now." He looked at his watch. It was 3:15 in the afternoon. "Mr. Dominguez, where is your wife right now?" "She should be at home. She mentioned no plans for today." "And Ruben Salazar?" "Probably at our company's office, 234, Alcala Street. Then Mendez nodded, giving instructions over the phone. Captain, a home arrest at the first address, a corporate arrest at the second. Proceed with discretion, but firmness. He hung up and looked at me directly. Then, do you want to be present during the arrests? The question took me by surprise. Part of me wanted to see their faces when they were captured. Another part then feared I would fall apart emotionally. I want to be there when they arrest Veronica, I finally said. I need to see it with my own eyes. Understood. You can accompany the agents, but you must stay back. This is an official procedure. 40 minutes later, I was sitting in the back seat of an unmarked police car. 2 agents from the Judicial Police Brigade were in the front. Then we followed at a safe distance while a tactical unit positioned itself around my house. It was 3:57 in the afternoon when I saw 4 agents approach the front door. One rang the bell. I heard the familiar sound echoing inside. Veronica opened it seconds later. From my position in the car 30 meters away, I saw her expression change from curiosity to confusion when she saw the police uniforms. Veronica Castillo Ramos? The lead agent asked, showing his badge. Yes, that's me. What's wrong? You have a warrant for your arrest for conspiracy to commit homicide. You must come with us immediately. The color drained from her face. What? This is a mistake. Homicide? Of whom? Of Javier Dominguez Ortega, your husband. Then I saw her knees buckle. She clung to the doorframe. No, I don't understand. Is Javier okay? This is absurd. Ma'am, then please hold out your hands. They put handcuffs on her while she repeated through tears. Then it's a mistake. I didn't do anything. Where's Javier? I want to talk to my husband. The agent signaled to me. I got out of the car and walked slowly towards the entrance of my own home. When Veronica saw me, her expression went from desperation to total shock. Javier, tell them this is a mistake. What's happening? I stopped 3 meters away. Then I looked her in the eyes. The woman I had slept next to for 24 years. The woman who promised to love me until death. Then, I found the camera on Monday, January 13th, I said in a calm voice that hid an internal storm. I recovered the recordings from December 20th. I've known everything for 10 days, Veronica. Every word you said with Ruben, every detail of the plan, the insurance policy, the secret apartment, the tickets to Buenos Aires, then everything. Her face completely fell apart. The tears became real now, mixed with pure then terror. No, it can't be. You didn't know. We were careful. Careful? You planned my murder in my own room in front of a camera that you yourselves installed. Last night, Ruben sabotaged my car exactly as he promised. Then the brake line is cut 82%. If I had driven to Granada on Friday, I'd be dead. Her legs gave out. Then she fell to her knees with her hands cuffed. Javier, please, He made me. Ruben manipulated me. I never. Enough. I cut off her crying. I listened to the complete recordings. Nobody forced you. You participated actively. You increased my life insurance without my knowledge. Then, you specifically asked if the plan would work. You bought tickets to flee 2 days after my planned death. One of the agents intervened. Mr. Dominguez, the other suspect, has just been arrested at his office. Then Ruben? Affirmative. He tried to resist. He's being transported to the station now. Veronica was sobbing uncontrollably. Then, 24 years. Javier, you're going to destroy 24 years over this. The question was so absurd I almost laughed. I wasn't the one who destroyed our marriage. You were, when you decided that 3 million euros was worth more than my life. The agents lifted her up and began to escort her to the police vehicle. She turned her head, screaming, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. It was a terrible mistake. I love you. Her words rang hollow. Love doesn't plan murders. Love doesn't sabotage car brakes. Then love doesn't flee to another country with the death insurance of a loved one. I watched as they put her in the patrol car. Her muffled cries continued until they closed the door. The silence that followed was deafening. 16 months later, in May of 2026, I was sitting in the Provincial Court of Madrid, Courtroom 3, awaiting the final verdict. It had been 503 days since that Wednesday, January 22nd, when Veronica and Ruben were arrested. The judicial process was exhausting. Preliminary hearings, presentation of evidence, expert testimonies, and endless cross-examinations. The defense tried to argue that the recordings were obtained illegally, that the evidence had been manipulated, that it was all a dramatic misunderstanding, but 52 pages of irrefutable documentation are hard to refute. The presiding judge, Miguel Ángel Soto Campos, a 64-year-old magistrate with 37 years on the bench, banged his gavel, calling for silence. The room filled with palpable tension. The court has deliberated extensively on case number 4328/2025. The defendants Veronica Castillo Ramos and Ruben Salazar Moreno face charges of conspiracy to commit aggravated homicide, attempted murder with premeditation, insurance fraud, and criminal sabotage. I looked over to where the defendants were sitting. Veronica had aged 10 years in 16 months. Her hair showed gray streaks she used to dye religiously. Deep dark circles marked the face I once loved. Then she wore the gray institutional suit of preventive detention. Ruben, beside her, looked haggard. He had lost at least 20 kilograms. His creditors had seized everything while he awaited trial. The company we built together for 15 years was dissolved. Then I bought his share for the symbolic value of €1, as our original contract allowed. In the case of Veronica Castillo Ramos, the judge continued, reading the sentence, the court finds her guilty of all charges presented. Premeditated conspiracy to murder her husband Javier Dominguez Ortega with clear economic motivation. The evidence presented demonstrates active participation in the planning, the fraudulent execution of the insurance policy increase, and full knowledge of the vehicle's sabotage intended to cause death. Veronica began to cry silently. Her lawyer put a hand on her shoulder, trying to comfort her. Veronica Castillo Ramos is sentenced to 19 years of effective imprisonment, with no possibility of parole before serving 2/3 of the sentence. Additionally, she is permanently disqualified as a beneficiary of any property or insurance related to the victim. 19 years. She would be 67 when she got out, if she ever did. In the case of Ruben Salazar Moreno, the judge turned the pages of his sentence. The court finds additional aggravating factors as the material executor of the vehicle sabotage, as a business partner who betrayed professional trust in addition to personal friendship, and as the main conspirator who initiated an extramarital affair with the victim's wife. Ruben kept his gaze fixed on the table in front of him. He didn't cry. He didn't react. He was completely broken. Then, Ruben Salazar Moreno is sentenced to 23 years of effective imprisonment, with no possibility of parole before serving 3/4 of the sentence. Additionally, a perpetual ban on engaging in any activity related to engineering or construction. 23 years. Then he would be 73 when he got out. His life was over. The gavel finally sounded. Sentence is final. This court is adjourned. I walked out of the courtroom without looking back. Alvaro was waiting for me in the hallway. My son had attended every hearing. He heard everything. He saw all the evidence. He cried when they projected the recordings of his mother planning my death. "Dad, are you okay?" he asked, hugging me. "Yes, son, it's over now." But we both knew that was a lie. Nothing was really over. The following months were an endless bureaucratic process. The insurance company tried to deny the €3 million payment, arguing fraud. But Gonzalo proved that I was the victim, not an accomplice. They eventually paid the full amount, plus interest for the delay. I canceled that policy immediately. I didn't want a single euro that was connected to the price they put on my life. Then the division of marital assets was more complex. Veronica had no right to anything according to the testamentary clause I had included, but legally we had joint properties accumulated over 24 then years. Lawyers negotiated for months. We finally agreed I would keep the house, the company, the vehicles, and 80% of the savings. She received 20%, which was deposited into a blocked account until she completed her sentence. €1,800,000 that she could never touch for the next 19 years. Alvaro decided to move in with me after the trial. "I can't live alone knowing what you went through," he said. But the relationship between us then changed irreversibly. Every time he looked at me, I saw a shadow of guilt in his eyes, as if he should have noticed something, prevented something. "It's not your fault," then I repeated to him constantly, but words couldn't erase the pain. Today, 14 months after the verdict, I live alone again. Alvaro graduated and took a job in Barcelona. He says he needs distance to start over far from a city full of painful memories. I understand. I'm 53 years old. Financially, I'm more than stable. The company grew without Ruben, ironically. I hired new partners, young and honest. We've had record sales this year. But emotionally, I'm a human wreck. I don't date anyone. I don't trust anyone. Every time someone gets too close, I see Veronica's face. I hear her voice saying, "I love you," while planning my death. I saw a psychologist for 8 months. "You suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder," he diagnosed. A betrayal of that magnitude destroys the basic ability to trust humans. He prescribed me medication. I took them for 2 weeks and then quit. I'd rather feel pain than feel nothing. Last night, I took out the camera I found 26 months ago. It's kept in a safe in my study along with a copy of all the recordings. Sometimes I look at it, remembering how such a small object saved my life but destroyed my soul. I knew Veronica Castillo for 24 years, 2 months, and 17 days. I slept beside her for 8,853 nights. I shared dreams, fears, hopes. We raised a son together. We built a whole life, and I never really knew her. That's the truth that haunts me every night when I close my eyes in my empty bed. You can live with someone for decades and still be a complete stranger. Justice gave them 19 and 23 years of conviction, but I received a life sentence of loneliness and distrust.